watching Dante's Boxing Nation. Woo!
Dante's Boxing Nation, we're here with Showtime President Stephen Espinoza. How you doing, Stephen?
Good, good. Ready for the fight. I think I'm about as anxious as the fighters are. I think everybody at this point is, I don't want to say sick of the promotion, but, you know, we waited 10 weeks, and here we are, 36 hours to go, and I think everyone's just anxious to get to the event.
I mean, Stephen, how do you think this fight is going to turn out, man? I mean, what do you think happens for either one of these guys? Should Deontay Wilder come out victorious or Tyson Fury? Where do they go from here?
I mean, there's a lot at stake because this is the biggest heavyweight fight in a couple decades here in the U.S. And, you know, a win for either Deontay or Fury puts them on the stage where they're clearly one of the two best heavyweights in the world. I mean, and there's really no debating that. And maybe the best heavyweight in the world, you know, the top fighter. So, and then the other guy doesn't disappear, but it's going to be, it takes some work to get back to that point. So it's certainly the most important fight of each of their careers. It's the biggest fight of their careers. The world titles at stake. You've got, huge financial stakes. You got to think that the guy who wins this is in line to get to do a fight with Anthony Joshua at some point in the next, I don't know, 6 to 12 months. You know, and that's that's tens of millions of dollars. So there's a lot at stake here. A win vaults them into a whole other level of notoriety and financial success.
Stephen, do you think a fight like this finally brings back the heavyweight division to where it used to be like back in the mid-90s? Because, you know, heavyweight has been a little dry, but do you think a fight like this, depending on how it turns out tomorrow, we could finally be like, all right, heavyweight is back?
It's definitely a big step because, you know, we have two great personalities. You know, we get a good fight out of it. You've got some young guys like Joe Joyce, and you know, and some of the newer guys. You've got established guys like Luis Ortiz, you know, who's got a real challenge in Travis Kaufman. And then of course you've got the big names in Anthony Joshua. So the ingredients are all there. So I think this is the most exciting time for heavyweights in probably the last 10 or 15 years.
Stephen, let me ask you something. I know you get tired of getting asked this question, but should Wilder win? We all know what's the fight everybody wants to see. What type of hurdles that Showtime and Deontay Wilder is going to have to go through to finally get a fight with Anthony Joshua? And what do you have to do with Eddie Hearn to get Eddie Hearn to cooperate and try to make this fight?
Well, it's a little puzzling because generally when there are these kinds of obstacles, what usually solves everything, and I hate to sound cynical, is usually money. You know, and if the stakes are high enough, the purses are big enough, then people figure out a way to get it done. And I think that was the thought in the $50 million offer to Anthony Joshua. You know, and that would be the biggest heavyweight purse in history. You know, there's no heavyweight that's ever made $50 million in a single fight. So when you've got it's a career-changing amount, it's a historic amount for a heavyweight fight, you would think that in itself would be enough to get past, you know, different motivations. I do think AJ wants the fight. I do know for a fact that Wilder wants the fight. There's some, you know, business obstacles. I think Matchroom is committed to trying to build the DAZN platform. But I think ultimately, look, the financial opportunity is huge for Joshua in the Wilder fight, and for Wilder Fury in that fight. So I'd like to think that, you know, with all this out of the way, that maybe the path is clear. I'm hopeful.
Okay, one last question, because I know you got to get back in there. Okay, next month, January, well, pretty much after day January, you got Manny Pacquiao, Adrian Broner. Who would you rather see win this fight? Because, you know, this is Manny, and then you got Adrian Broner. How you think this fight is going to plan out, and will they be a Floyd-Manny Pacquiao rematch should Manny win on Showtime?
Well, I'll take the second one first. You know, if Pacquiao wins, then I think Floyd is very interested in a rematch. He is serious. Not exactly sure when that would come together, but definitely could come together. In terms of what happens January 19th, I think most people sort of assume that Pacquiao will come through it. I think it's going to be a much tougher fight, a much closer fight than I think most people think. You have Manny Pacquiao is one of the all-time greats. He's not at his peak, but 80-90% of Pacquiao is still better than the vast majority of fighters out there. But Adrian Broner has certain gifts. He's very athletic, he's quick, he's got decent power. And I think he's got the athleticism to give Pacquiao some problems. So I think that, to me, what is stylistically intriguing about the fight. I mean, when you look back at Pacquiao-Matisse, that wasn't a great matchup for Matisse, because Matisse really didn't have the speed or athleticism to keep up with. Now, there's one thing that we know that Adrian has, and that's speed, athleticism, quickness, and that's the kind of thing that can offset, and provide a good match for Pacquiao's athleticism. So I think it's going to be a competitive fight, a very competitive fight, and I think it's one that's probably too close to call.
All right, man. Thank you, Stephen, for talking to me.
Absolutely.
Dante's Boxing Nation.